Good one. So have we done justice to step 2? There were several components of it. You covered a couple of them. Is there more that you want to say to make it more complete?
No, we were into the third. Oh, no, we haven't finished step 2 yet.
No, I think we did the first 2 aspects of 4 or something.
Third, which is you have to go through a process of liberating the repressed feelings within you.
Right.
We were talking about anger and hurt, that we carry these feelings from our childhood, sometimes from other lifetimes. But, you know, I've seen it happen. We can release lifetimes of repressed anger in a few seconds if we hit the right note. Anger, strangely enough, anger has its right note. And very few of us know how to be in right relationship with anger. We don't know what anger is. And we have to... Well, anger is always a response to hurt. And if you're willing to go deeply enough into anger and really allow anger to be all that it is and all that it wants to be and all that it can be, you'll discover that anger is completely and utterly ridiculous. It wants to kill for the slightest harm. You didn't say hello to me nicely at the beginning of this interview, Rick. You die. Now, if you can play with anger in that way and ham it up and really take it over the top, exaggerate it, ham it up, recognize it for how ridiculous it is. It's completely unreasonable. It wants to punish anyone that hurt you, only so much more. It's not interested in punishment that fits the crime. It wants to kill, maim, torture anyone that hurt you, even a little bit. Once you recognize that, you can play with anger, and then anger will receive the one thing it's never received, which is unconditional love and acceptance. That's the alchemy. It's allowed to be itself. Then it will relax. It will say goodbye to you and go looking for someone else to disturb. Seriously.
It also sounds like, you know, you get to a place where you just can't take it seriously anymore. It seems absurd. You know, it's like, I'm acting, this is so silly. I can't act this way.
I'm a completely insane man in this way. And it is really funny. I teach the anger meditation, and it's a very short meditation where you express the anger aloud so you can hear what you're saying. If you don't finish up laughing at the end of the meditation, which shouldn't last more than 3 minutes, you don't finish up laughing, you're not hitting the right note. Yeah. Because it's funny. And when you recognize how funny anger is, it stops controlling you. You're the master of anger, it's not your master. And then it opens you up to the hurt, which you can then begin healing the hurt, which mostly originates in childhood. And hurt is really easy. Anger is the only difficult one. With hurt, you just cry. No big deal, cry. If you cry for 2 days, who cares? You probably won't, but if you did, who cares? You cry. If you're meant to know what you're crying about, it will be revealed. But there's a tremendous healing that occurs as you allow the hurt feelings to surface into consciousness. Sometimes that hurt will surface with a story, and sometimes it'll just be hurt. You won't know what the hurt is about, and it doesn't matter. And the other feelings that we have to liberate, notice I say liberate, not get rid of. We allow the feelings to complete their journey through us because feelings are meant to arise and pass through us within moments. They're not meant to be stuck in us and become part of us. But because we were very young, we didn't know how to deal with these feelings. We learned to repress the feelings. We were taught to repress the feelings, so they become a part of us. And we interrupted their journey through us. So the approach I take to liberation of feelings is allow those feelings to complete their journey through you. They'll be so happy. They'll be done with you.
And how do you allow them?
Well, I have a number of different meditations and ways to encourage people to allow these feelings to surface. And they surface in a very real way. I mean, people can really get very caught up in that past hurt or that past wound or whatever it is. I mean, I can't tell you I thought I had a pretty difficult childhood. But when I hear the stories of what so many people have been through, my gosh, my parents were saints compared to so many people. And it's just shocking to me what some of us have had to endure, the level of abuse. But it's possible to heal all of that. I'll give you one example. I'm not sure if this is in the book or not, I don't know. But many years ago, I was working with a German doctor, very, very nice man, really looked very together guy. But I did a couple of sessions with him, and what came up, what he shared with me, which was very surprising to me, he shared that he always lives with this vague feeling of something not being safe. Someone's out to get him. It's been with him all his life, and he couldn't understand where it came from. There's no reason for it that he could think of. And as he got more and more into the feelings, because the feelings, when you feel the feelings, it opens the door to healing. Most of us don't want to feel the feelings. We want to think our feelings. We want to understand our feelings. But if you're willing to feel the feelings, it opens the door to healing. So what happened for him, as he was feeling his feelings, it opened a door to a deeper level, and he recognized that his mother was trying to abort him while he was in the womb.
Oh, yeah, that was in the book.
Oh, okay. So he recognized that, and all the pain of that, all the fear of that, all the anger about that. I had him dialogue with his mother. How dare you do that to me? Whatever. To really complete that whole experience and allow whatever needs to be expressed to be expressed. And after that, that feeling of unease that he'd lived with all his life had disappeared completely. I mean, that's the same with people with migraine headaches. Now, I don't want to say this is true for everyone with a migraine headache, but when somebody at one of my retreats presents with a headache and tells me, I've had this headache all my life or for the last 10 years, I'll have a 5-minute dialogue, maybe a 3-minute dialogue with their headache, which makes incredible sense why the headache is there. We give the headache an opportunity to express itself, which usually involves feelings. And after that, the headache's gone. It's really amazing. We are amazing beings, and what we're capable of is way beyond anything we can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the word amazing, what I find cool is that, you know, you're able to affect such radical change or facilitate such radical change in people so quickly, whereas in some cases people might be in therapy for years and years and not undergo this kind of change. And I can only attribute it to the component of presence, which you keep emphasizing, that you know, that component actually enables you to accomplish so much more with less effort.
Absolutely. I think it's essential, and I think future therapies will become more and more presence-centered and presence-based. I hope that's the way that it goes, because psychology, although it can be very useful, is still a function of the mind, and true healing occurs when we can transcend the mind by becoming present. We literally transcend the story. If you want to free yourself from the story, then you have to first know what is the story, and secondly, you have to be able to identify who you are in the story. By bringing those things to consciousness, it enables a relaxation to occur. You see the story for what it is. You recognize who you are in the story with compassion, with love, and suddenly you find yourself more and more present, more and more deeply present. It's just an organic process. The third aspect of the second step, sorry, the fourth aspect of the second step, the final aspect, is if I'm truly present, I am me. If you're present, you are you. In other words, we have to get out of each other. And the truth is, we humans are so hopelessly lost in each other. We're so caught up in each other. We're so entangled in each other. How can I know who I am if you're mixed up in me? And if you're mixed up in me, then your mother and your father are mixed up in me. And so it goes on and on. It's so complex. And as a part of the awakening process, we have to free ourselves from becoming lost in others, entangled, caught up in others. I'll give you an example of how I might get lost in you. Very simple examples. If I want you to agree with what I'm saying right now, Rick, I'm getting caught up in you. You're a free being. You can agree or not agree. It has nothing to do with me. If I need you to believe what I'm saying, same thing. If I need you to love me, I'm actually getting caught up in you. I'm getting lost in you. And I'm literally moving energetically. I'm moving away from me to you and getting caught up in you. It's energetic. If I want you to accept me or approve of me, same thing. If I fear your judgment or I fear your rejection, I'm getting caught up in you. And of course, if you're doing the same to me, you're getting caught up in me. So we have to bring to consciousness how we've been doing this all our lives and how it's affected us. It's not difficult. It's not something you practice. It's something you recognize as you live your life. In other words, now that you know that now that I know that me wanting you to love me or accept me or agree with me causes me to be lost in you and lose myself. Now, next time I notice that happening, I'll recognize it. I'm not going to stop it. I'm just going to recognize it, acknowledge it, confess it. Wow, I'm losing myself. It's very gentle. There's no effort to change anything. There's no effort to fix anything. It all happens organically as presence recognizes what's going on at that other dimension within the world of time.
Yeah, that's really good. I've gone through phases in my life where I've been really an obnoxious proselytizer, you know, and just wanting to turn people onto my trip in order to perhaps, you know, compensate for my own lack of confidence in myself, you know, or in what I was trying to do in my own life. I needed their collaboration in order to justify or reinforce it. And hopefully I've moved beyond that tendency, but I can see it, you know, in religious proselytizers and political proselytizers and everybody else who just really is trying to get others to agree with them because they're not so certain of themselves. It's like a way of compensating for your own doubt.
It's your own self-doubt, right?
Yeah,
and inner security. It's out of control in America at the moment, completely out of control. I mean, we mentioned CNN. I can't watch CNN anymore, really, because it's one talking head against another talking head.
Yelling at each other, yeah.
Who cares? I mean, who cares what their opinions are?
Yeah, good point.
It'd be much better if people would just give an objective, honest view without taking a position, you know. This country would go a lot further.
Yeah, or taking a position. I mean, I have positions on certain things, you know. Maybe I have an opinion about climate change or gun control or whatever, but you know, recognizing that, you know, I'm just one blind man feeling the elephant, and there may be other perspectives that have their own validity based upon what that person has experienced, you know.
Well, you know, there's a deeper level, Rick, which is when you and I become silent, present and silent, all our ideas, opinions, and beliefs have disappeared. And that's what really would guide us through life. That's what informs us about what's conscious and what's unconscious. We need to move from what's right and wrong to what's conscious and what's unconscious. And anyone who's present, truly present, is not going to harm anyone, is not going to be dishonest, is not going to chop down a tree without, you know, deep prayer and seeking the tree's permission to chop down a tree. And so, you know what I'm saying, there's a tremendous respect for the oneness of everything. For me, in fact, this came up on Facebook just the other day. In presence, there's no need for morality. In presence, there's no need for the 10 Commandments. If you're present, you're not going to steal from anyone. You're not going to be committing adultery. You're not going to be chopping down forests. I don't know how anyone who's truly present is going to go hunting. I really don't. I don't know how you do that.
Are you a vegetarian?
I'm not vegetarian, but I mean, I go in and out of vegetarianism, but the answer is no, not entirely. Yeah. But I still wouldn't go hunting. I might eat something that's on the supermarket shelf, but I don't know how I could go hunting.
I couldn't either, but you know, if I lived in Alaska and I depended upon something, you know, shooting an elk to live through the winter or something, then that gives it some justification. But yeah. I mean, here in Iowa, they've passed a law that makes it legal to shoot doves because they're like targets, you know, and it's so abhorrent to my way of thinking.
Yeah, well, that's really what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially, that's step 2, and the two steps together lead to awakening because they're interdependent, these 2 steps. It's not like you're doing one step and then doing the other. Each day you're remembering presence, you're deepening into presence, and at the same time, each day you're taking responsibility for all the many ways you're pulled out of the present moment, all the obstacles to you being present, whether it's the ego's resistance, whether it's who you've become, you're judging who you've become or denying it, whether you're not in right relationship with feelings that are arising, or whether you're losing yourself in others, or at the end of all of that, whether a judgment more than any other energy will keep us in the separation. So we have to take responsibility for judgment as it arises within us, and go beyond judgment. I don't see how anyone awakens with the energy of judgment, because I know for a fact that God is without judgment and presence is without judgment. I know that. So you can't come to God with judgment.
And it's ironic how often God is portrayed in scriptures as being judgmental, you know, just this jealous, wrathful, petty kind of entity.
Well, that's not the God I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good point. So I would say, in conclusion, that you've really done justice to this calling for which you were zapped 30-something years ago. You know, quite unexpectedly. you're really doing a good job with it, and really helping a lot of people, and it's heartening to see that. And I think perhaps a lot of people who have listened to this interview who hadn't been familiar with you will want to read your book, or perhaps come on a retreat or something. Mm-hmm. I hear that from people that, oh, I'm so glad that you interviewed so and so, that person, she has really become my teacher now, and I was just It's a perfect fit. So maybe some people who've listened to this will find that you're the guy they've been looking for in terms of helping to.
Well, that sometimes happens.
Yeah. Yeah.